lot of fish.
Hello and welcome to Demasked. My name is Fresman, and today I'm joined by Lucid Lupus. How are you today?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing very good. So, from what I've seen here, you are a horror narration channel. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So, how long have you been doing narration for?
Well, I've been doing narrations technically for a year. I started 1 year ago in 2018, but I decided that it wasn't for me at the time because I just had a lot going on. I was doing it for the wrong reasons, you know. I was much younger at the time. I was about 17. I'm 18 now, and uh, it just wasn't in my interest. But during quarantine, I just kind of thought about it, and is my old account still up? So I just decided to make another video, which was with a horror narrator named Jensen, and it just went from there, and it's been amazing.
What video is that?
I think it's actually the very first video I posted this year. I think it's I think it's 3 or 5 horror stories featuring Jensen.
Okay. Oh man, let's see here. The second video I'm seeing here is the scary stories to tell in the dark story.
Yes, that was it's funny because my older videos are a lot different than because I've done so much. I've taken vocal lessons for a few years, so my voice has changed a lot. I'm able to do a lot of voices. I do voice impressions. So I didn't have a mic last year. I use my phone right now, but I'm using my headset, which I used to use as my old mic. I did have a Blue Yeti, but something's wrong with it. It's broken, but it's old. But I plan on getting a new mic to up my audio. But yeah, I love watching my old videos to see how much I've progressed.
Yeah. I mean, it's always nice to keep the back catalog of older videos, especially to learn from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. So what got you into horror narration? Did you want to start out with horror narration, or did it just kind of happen?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. When I was about, I want to say 12, I was in middle school, and my friends were just gathering around in their little circle during study hall. And I'm like, hey, what are you guys watching? And they're like, oh, we're watching this guy named Mr. Nightmare. Around the time when Mr. Nightmare was fairly new, and I'm sure you know who he is. And I just kind of listened to his videos, and they scared the living crap out of me growing up and stuff. And then I stumbled upon Corpse Husband, Mr. Nightmare, Corpse Husband, Lazy Masquerade, and Mr. Creeps have inspired me to do this a lot, and it just kind of went from there. But I never really got into it until a few years later because I didn't really know how to edit or anything. I'm still learning how to edit too, but it's a fun process.
And that's what I personally like about doing YouTube, is especially for everybody I've talked to thus far, is it's consistently a learning experience no matter how long you've been on here. And like, even people have, like, personally, I've been here for almost 4 years, I want to say. Well, close. But I'm still like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just great seeing that. It's just great seeing, because I didn't really grow up with a lot of friends, so it's just amazing just seeing a community so welcoming and just seeing little comments like, oh, this was so good, or your voice is so nice, and just stuff like that. It helps me, it motivates me to do these kinds of stuff, and I don't only do it for myself, I do it for the people too, because it's so fun seeing people watch stuff that they enjoy.
Yeah. And I adore seeing, like, just new stories coming out altogether, both ones that have been read from, like, r/no sleep or Creepypasta Wiki, or even ones that some of the creators will write themselves. It's always interesting to see what's coming out of those channels.
Absolutely.
Now, so any of these stories here, have you written any of these?
I have, yes. I believe I've written a bunch of stories on my own time, but I've only read one of them, which was on my newest radio show video with a YouTuber named Mad Chatter. He read my story, and it's called Mother's Home. It's just a little little story that has a really unique twist at the end.
Well, that's good to hear. I'll have to check that out. Um, After this, I'll put a link in the description below for all you wonderful party people to go check it out. But I'm not a narration channel myself, but I I did throw my hat into the ring for it was a narrator collaboration,
Hmm.
and I'm like I could read a story, sure, and it was one of the guidelines was like, it can be a true story. I'm like, I do have a true story. I could just write that down, and from I heard, people liked
Yeah,
it.
yeah. When I first started doing narrations, you know, I just kind of assumed that you had to see my narrating voice now that I do is completely different from my original narrating
Hmm.
voice because I didn't really know how to speak into a. It's weird because I was speaking into a microphone, but I I had stage fright for nobody that was there in the room while I was recording. I was in my bed. I found a story and I just recorded it on my iPad, and it's funny because that was the peak of my complete stupidity because there was no editing. There was literally just maybe cuts out pauses, and I just slapped on some music. And it's interesting because my original narrating voice, I was like, there was a man who whatever, and it just sounded like I was constipated.
I I understand that stage fright comment all too well because I had that back when I started my channel because I it took me forever to make a YouTube channel, but when it did, I'm like, I can
Hmm.
do it, and then I hit record, and it's like, uh, oh no, what do I say?
Yeah. Oh, I have terrible. I even, as funny as this is, a lot of people just know me as I'm really calm and chill. I always get over my head after before I upload a video. I probably sometimes when I make a video, I'm like hovering over the enter button when I'm ready to publish it. I'm like, do people like it? I don't know if it will do well. So I just sometimes go back and forth. And all right, I'm gonna do it. And I go, wait, no, I'm not.
Well, I think for you, me, and a lot of people, a lot of it's very much the idea of diving into the deep end, kind of pushing yourself to do stuff you enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of benefit to just kind of taking that leap and getting something out there. It doesn't even have to be good, but as long as it's there and you enjoyed making it, then
Hmm.
that's what counts, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Now that you've passed 100 subscribers, uh, when when does the Patreon open up? When do you start selling out to other companies?
Well, with YouTube, I honestly, um, I grew up not really having money, so money's not really my main
Mm,
focus with, cause I hate asking for like, oh, can you guys donate stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It'd be nice because I really want to upgrade my stuff and I really want to upgrade my microphone mainly because I really love giving good content, you
Mm,
know. And with my editing skills, I can only do so much to make the audio as clear as possible. And most people think that I use an expensive mic, but I really don't. But I think once I get a reasonable uh, subscriber base, maybe around 1,000 one day, I think I might leave the option open to have a Patreon or something like that if
yeah.
people would like.
I like. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat as me. Of like, this is for fun, but if it does turn out to become something else, or even like a job, for lack of a better term,
Hmm.
then like, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like a go with the flow moment.
Hmm.
I'm not really worried about where I'm gonna be a year from now because that hasn't even happened yet. I'm still working on the present right now,
Yeah,
but because future can change. It's not really promised, and we're not promised tomorrow either. So I just try to make the most of what I have right now.
that's a good point. I, well, I mean, I know we're not promised tomorrow, but I do plan for tomorrow just in case it happens.
Absolutely.
Are you are you spiritual?
I partially am. Yeah, I grew up. I believed. Well, my speech is a little weird. I grew up in a Christian
Mm.
family. I couldn't kind of didn't. I was a little weird about it. I didn't really understand. I'm not necessarily atheist, but I do believe that there is something higher power. I know a lot of people are. It's a weird topic for some people. I just like to ponder that there's someone watching us. Where would we go when we're not here anymore?
Mm.
I believe that things happen for a reason. There's a reason this is happening.
Mm.
Everything happens for a reason. I like to think that
Yeah.
the more we want something and the more we work for it, it can most certainly happen. It's just we're clouded with a lot of negativity in our society. It just kind of seems like a dead end when we want to achieve our goals. But
Mm.
if you just have that little stick of positivity in the ground, I think anybody can do almost anything.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
like personally, I grew up in a not how do I word it? A not very religious household, but
Mm-hmm.
I as a kid, just by myself, I became religious for a little bit, just a little bit, for incredibly selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are you familiar with the movie Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey?
Yes, I am.
That's why, because I figured, hey, if I support Christian values and I become a good person and I pray, maybe Morgan Freeman will come down and give me cool God powers.
Yeah.
And then, like, it dawned on me one day, I'm like, that's not working. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, Bruce Almighty was such a good movie. I remember that was one of my first movies I watched. Movies in general have had a big impact on my life. I grew up around a 50s household. My mother watched a lot of old shows, and it's kind of funny because I have a knack for doing old style voices, and my singing has picked up on Frank's. My voice when I do singing, it's funny because I can't really sing a lot of the songs today, but somehow I can sing a lot of the older singers really well.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I think it also goes back to, like, I've noticed that too, that the type of singing is very different from like from now to back then, because it seems like the what's the term I'm looking for, the vibrato is it's a lot slower back then, and
Hmm.
notes are easier to hit, if that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of technology, so messing with the vocal. Obviously, there was like obviously a little bit of like compression and stuff to even everything out, but there wasn't really any auto tune. So people back then really had to use their voice to maintain their stuff because you can't be in the 1950s and auto tune everything to perfect
Mm.
perfection. People really not saying people today don't know how to sing, but people back then a lot of them really knew how to use their voice and project themselves, like Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I'm reminded of was um, the last verse of "Fly Me to the Moon," where he's not exactly hitting a high note, but he's projecting himself, and it feels like it's a higher note, but he's just pushing that much harder.
Hmm.
I've been listening to a lot of like Marty Robbins and Frank Sinatra recently. Dean
Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah, my vocal teacher says that my voice, because I Frank Sinatra has a very specific way. He announces his U's a lot, and I did that one day, and he kind of looked at me weird, scratching his head, because apparently that's really hard to do. Because projecting yourself is a lot. It takes a lot of guttural lung power to do something like that.
Mm.
And my vocal range is crazy. I can be up in the sky or down in the basement.
Mm.
And my teacher says that my voice is a mix of Mel Torme and Frank Sinatra. And I like to incorporate that in the voices I do. Like I just created a Twilight Zone themed intro for Fleshwad. She's a drawer,
Mm.
artist. Sorry, I can't speak. And then I made an intro for Dezombified too. So that's really cool.
The Zombified are wonderful people. I've had them on before, and they're amazing.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned films before. Do you have a favorite in mind?
Say that again. Sorry.
You mentioned films earlier. Do you have a favorite film?
I do. I like older films a lot more. I like back in 80s times. I like the Back to the Future
Mm,
series. I just love the concept of it, and really old films. My favorite first horror film I ever saw was Psycho.
really?
Yeah, that was one of my favorites.
The original or the Vince Vaughn one?
Original,
Mm,
black and white.
I it like my favorite movie kind of just it changes depending on what kind of what I'm looking for at that moment. So like my favorite old time comedy is Arsenic and Old Lace
Mm-hmm.
because
That's
it
cool.
takes so long for everything to hit the fan and the humor's so subtle that like some of it you can just up and miss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in terms of like what would you say your more like your favorite more modern film would be like in the last decade?
Well, I'd have to say that's a hard one. There was a lot of good film in the 90s. I think in the 90s there was a lot of movies that revolutionized the modern era today. Um, like Forrest Gump was one of my
That's a
favorites.
good one, yeah.
That was a good film. Then there was The Burps. I believe that was in the late 80s. I might be wrong on that, but with Tom Hanks, that was a really good movie too.
Mm,
I really like looking at all the visual effects and seeing how they progressed. An example is Godzilla, the first American reboot. It, it's almost it's too advanced for its time with these certain visual effects and all the shading and stuff. It's really hard to pull off, but they nailed it.
mm. Well, especially with like you look at films like RoboCop that mix a lot of both practical and stop motion
Oh yeah,
elements.
those were great movies.
Mm-hmm. What was the? Oh no, I'm blanking on it. There was one that, if I remember, was touted as one of the first films to have like characters in a full, not CG environment, but like a fully, yeah, I'd say CG environment. It was Tron.
Yeah, that was a good movie. I like the oldness of it. Tron is a very interesting film. I like the new one too, but it was kind of disappointing.
I miss it. I miss like that weird like neon cyber punk style.
Seizure inducing.
Yeah, yeah, the flashing lights. Well, oh, what was the name of that giant face at the end of Tron?
Oh, I can't remember at the top of my head.
It was, but that whole scene where it's just nothing but flashing like orange and red light. Just ugh.
I remember something that gave me an actual seizure as a kid. I think it's been in America now. I remember watching TV, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I remember Pokemon released an episode that
Porygon.
got taken down. Yeah, because there's like a bunch of like flashing seizure-inducing lights, and like there was tons of cases where kids like got seizures from it. I was one of those kids. Not a fun
Are
time.
you epileptic?
To a degree, yeah. I have certain mental problems, but
Hmm.
it doesn't slow me down.
Hmm. Let's see
Yeah.
here.
With my I have ADHD, autism, and Tourette's, but something I like to think is I use them as superpowers because I have the ability to super focus on something, and I use that super focus ability mainly in my ears, and I'm basically like a tape recorder. If I listen to something, I can either remember it, not almost instantly, but I can remember things really well. Like with music, I taught myself guitar in just 2 months, and I taught myself piano, and I took that over to voice impressions, and it's just been kind of fun. Like just today, I don't know if you've seen or not, I made Twilight Zone intros, and I try to impersonate Rob Serling, but in my own way, if that makes sense, but keeping the essence.
Hmm.
And a lot of people were impressed, and it's, the funny thing is, I never practiced that voice. I just listened and just kind of went off what I
Hmm.
could. Yeah.
Well, I'm a firm believer in that. What's the term? The Pavlovian response.
Hmm.
But instead of it being like ring bell, I'm hungry, it's like you can hear a sound years down the road and know where it came from.
Hmm.
And I was actually discussing this recently with my brother about sounds in video games because
Hmm.
me and him are both fans of the Half Life series. Have you played those?
Yeah, I recently started playing the VR Half-Life Alex game.
That game is fantastic.
Absolutely.
I but my me and my brother, so we were writing a script together and we were talking about how sound design can cause that Pavlovian response, and then I brought up how even all these years later, because I played Half Life originally in like 2007, so like 13 years ago,
Hmm.
and I can still to this day hear like the impact sounds, the gunshot sounds, like whenever I'm watching a movie and they use one of those sounds, I'm like that's from Half Life. They reused that sound.
Yeah. Yeah, like with a lot of the remastered games too, it's incredible how they recreate everything. Like Resident Evil 3, for
Oh
example, that was
yes.
incredible how they recreated everything. And the voice actors too. It's I love how voice actors can replicate, like Troy Baker, for example. Um, he he voiced younger Mark Hamill's Joker,
Mm-hmm.
and he said his goal wasn't really to because his Joker sounds like this, and it's supposed to be a younger version of Mark, and he wasn't. He said he wasn't trying to imitate him, but a lot of people got that off of him.
Yeah, and a lot of times like that could even be a subconscious factor. It's like, well, I'm not trying to, but you kind of end up doing it anyway.
Yeah, that's how it is with my voices.
Mm. There was oh my goodness, what was it? So so uh, on the topic of the Pavlovian response, I used to work at a hardware retailer, and they sold these. I don't understand why they exist. They're interesting, but I don't get it. It's a speaker inside of a light bulb,
Huh?
like it's a Bluetooth speaker that you can just screw into your ceiling and then hook your phone up to it, and you can play music, and it sounds like it's coming from everywhere. But
That's kind of nightmare-inducing.
it is a little bit. Have you heard of the song "Every Day" by Buddy Holly?
Oh, every day
Mm-hmm.
is a getting closer. Yeah, that
The
song.
and you know how there's like the beat of like the clapping.
Yeah.
I like they would be playing that on one of those tiny speakers at the back of the store, and I heard it so often every day that I worked because they just played that song on a loop that I could be outside and hear the clapping.
Yeah, that's something too that with audio, if I hear something enough, I'll start to hear it when it's not even playing. It's kind of weird. It's like, wait.
Oh, one of the oldest examples I have is the it's the sound of the door opening from Doom,
Oh yeah.
that like air compression.
Yeah, I made the mistake. I had my headphones. They were on full volume because I didn't think I could hear the game because the game was kind of
Hmm.
weird, and the door closed and it scared the living crap out of me.
What are some of your favorite games?
Some of my favorite games are the one of my all-time favorite games is probably Assassin's Creed trilogy. They have disappointed me a lot, but I love the Assassin's Creed franchise. Odyssey I don't believe counts because that was not Assassin's Creed. Uh, that I like the Batman Arkham series. Arkham Origins was my favorite. I believe that's the one with Troy Baker's Joker. Something about his is so captivating, and I love doing his voice. Uh, then there's the Red Dead Redemption series. Red Dead 2 is one of my basically games that I played the most, even though it's technically a prequel.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially with like voice direction, Red Dead 2 has some fantastic moments in it because
Absolutely.
I love character moments where it's this weird like have you finished Red Dead 2?
I have twice.
So, well, spoiler alert for anybody at home. It's been out for a little bit. You've had time to play it. This is your warning here. But when I got the what would you would consider the good ending for Red Dead 2,
Mm-hmm.
and when when Arthur's just gotten beaten into the dirt and he's laying there, he's like, "I tried. In the end, I tried." It's like, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
man.
All I needed was some money.
Yeah,
Hey Arthur!
I've got a plan, Arthur. You always got a plan, Dutch.
I was playing with my friends. We were playing Red Dead 2, and I was John Marston, and I just screamed, "Tahiti is shit!" And everybody started laughing at me. Oh, fun fact. So spoiler alert also. So in the ending when Mary's just standing by Arthur's grave.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that's actually the actor of Arthur in a motion capture suit playing Mary? Yeah, she wasn't on set that day, and they asked him, "Hey, she's not here, so could you like just stand there for a little bit and be Mary?"
I need you to act like you're sad over your own grave.
Yeah, that's basically what he said, and it's funny because like I'm like her movement seems a little off, but it's convincing. And then I watched a uh, convention interview, and he mentioned that, and I'm like, wow.
What was it The Last of Us where they
Hmm.
did the quote unquote musical ending?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Joel. He did you know he is voiced by Troy Baker? Troy Baker is such an extraordinary actor.
mm-hmm.
Troy Baker is the only voice technically actor in history. He's voiced uh, Jason Todd. He Red Hood.
Mm-hmm.
He's voiced Batman. He's voiced the Joker. He's voiced Two Face, and now he's voicing Bruce. Yeah, Bruce Banner, which is crazy.
If I remember, let's say one of the first games I ever played with him in it was Bioshock Infinite.
Yeah, that's a classic. I like that game.
Well, like, again, it goes back to like that. I adore characters that are trying to do good, but for the wrong reasons.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, sure, he tried to save Elizabeth, but he killed like 200 people on the way there.
Yeah, that doesn't check out.
I don't think that
That
balances.
like with Delson Rowe and Infamous Second Son, if you're familiar with that series.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good series. Uh, I've seen both endings, and Delson was trying to save his family, but yet he's killed thousands of people. And if you get the bad ending, spoiler alert, not really even a spoiler. The game was out like I think like 7 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah. He basically kills his whole family at the end.
Yeah, he like nukes his house at the end.
I'm like, what are you doing? You just wanted to help them, and now you want to kill them.
Well, like he's all sad for a minute. I'm like, yeah, that does suck. And then he shoots up into the air and does that that air attack. I'm like, wait.
Yep.
Uh, well, that was one of the funnier things for me. Like, I gotta tag the top of the Space Needle. It's like, who's gonna see it, man?
Exactly.
I've been trying to play that game. I have my PS4 packed away. But I need to get back into it. I need to finish it.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of VR gaming recently. I did play the PlayStation VR for a while, and then I got the new Oculus Quest for Christmas.
Mm.
That's actually been a really cool experience. I played the Star Wars game and scared the shit out of me when I was locked up and Darth Vader slowly came out of this doorway and was just standing there walking towards me. I'm like, I want to take this off, but then again, I don't.
Well, like so I'm one of those that I talk a lot when I'm nervous.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I was playing Half-Life Alyx, and I had like the headphones in and everything,
Mhm.
and I'm talking at zombies while they're like staggering towards me,
Yeah.
like out of bullets. I'm like, I'll be right with you. Hold on, drop the clip. Give me a second.
Yeah, another game that's kept me up for weeks was the Outlast 1 and 2. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I you know, I one time I had a nightmare, and like I have the kind of nightmares that when I'm waking up, I'll still hear bits of the nightmare as I'm waking up,
Mm.
and I'll look in my room and hear the bits of it. So I wake up and I hear I'm like, "Nope."
What was the name of that one character? He's one of my favorites from the first Outlast. It's Dr. Traeger.
Oh yeah. He was a good character.
I
Then there was Eddie Gluskin.
Yeah. Oh.
When I was a boy, my mother often said to me, "Get married and say how." He was terrifying.
Well, with Dr. Traeger, I just love how messed up he looks, but also how charismatic he is.
Yeah, because he had a sad past. Because he wasn't one of those characters that was just flat up crazy. It was a progression.
Mm-hmm.
He snapped and then he got messed up.
And then the Murkoff event happened, and then everything went to hell.
Outlast 2 was, excuse my, is explicit language not allowed here?
Oh, this is not a family show. You go for it.
Okay. All right, good. So Outlast 2, that has probably gone to another dimension of fuckery that I have never experienced. Like, uh, there is no words to describe the ending. It's just, what? So much has happened and it's so confusing. I think I know what happened, but a lot of it was just, why?
I, I
PTSD.
need a Rod Sterling impression of "Welcome to a new dimension of fuckery."
All
Oh
right.
no.
Here we see a man standing in his room playing a new game. He is currently freaking out because he has experienced another dimension of fuckery in the game zone.
Uh,
He also shit himself uh,
Witness this man shit himself in the gamer zone.
in the gamer zone. Like Psych Scoop. With speaking of voices, I do a good Plankton impression, and I scared the living shit out of my friend one day because I was reading him a scary story as Plankton. He was scared but laughing at the same time. I'm like, well, Mr. Krabs, where's the Krabby Patty formula?
Oh man. I so so uh for go sorry, I'm trying. uh,
You're good.
Going back to Outlast 2, those to me cover two very different aspects of what I'm personally afraid of.
Absolutely.
Because like I've like certain fears are universal in a way. Like one of the more universal ones would be of like heights. You know.
Yeah. I feel like at the end of the game, I felt like I should have filed a lawsuit because I felt very violated
Ah,
by some of the things I experienced in that game. You know, like I could feel their breath just
yeah.
like stand back.
I
Marta scared me. God damn
what was it? Outlast One. So the PC version, I don't know if the glitch is still there, but it happened to
it.
me, and I got a screen capture of it. Future me in editing, if you can find that, please put that up. That'd be amazing. But you know the guy at the very beginning that dives out of the wheelchair to grab you.
Yes.
He's like, "Let me out of here!" And he curls up into a ball.
Yeah, some of those dudes scare me, you know. It just, first of all, how the hell are all of them still there? Some of them are just chilling out. I can't tell you how many times I've hyped myself up to be scared. Literally, I just see a dude chilling in a chair watching a static TV. He just
Mm.
turns around, he's like, what do you want? I'm like, okay, sorry.
Or there's that one room where there's like five guys all watching the TV and none of them acknowledge you.
No, that'd be terrifying. Just imagine if it was the casting couch in there. There's five inmates in there just waiting. Chris Walker just stands behind you. He's been waiting.
Little pig.
Little pig.
But the guy who dives out of the wheelchair to grab you, the glitch that I run into is so he's still there, like he just kind of hangs around. But if you leave and come back, he like T poses through the wheelchair. But
Interesting.
that door is like closed and locked now, so I can see him in the distance T posing halfway through the chair.
Oh, if you see him T posing, it's game over. You book your shit and
Yeah,
run.
that means I've already lost.
Yep.
I love that moment with Dr. Traeger where you're tied down to the wheelchair and he goes, "All right, the door's open. You can leave. Go ahead, go." And then he stops for a minute and he's like, "No, all right, let's go."
Oh.
I certainly wasn't expecting to lose fingers in that game.
Yeah, no, I don't know how the hell he's still working. He's got to have good willpower to do that shit, because I'd be on the floor sleeping from all the pain.
What was it? Resident Evil 7?
Oh, I played that game in VR. Oh my god. Ew.
When
That game scared me.
when the
Where you going, boy?
better start running, boy. Just like, oh no.
It's like you're teasing me. I don't know if I should stay or run.
What was the like? If I remember, you lose a hand, and then it gets stapled back on.
Some of them grow back. It's like, what the hell? I'm not Deadpool.
Well, then, if I remember, there is an optional moment where like you lose a foot, and they explain to you how the herbs work, or at least within the Baker Mansion how it works. Because you like
Huh.
reattach your leg and then pour the green herb over it, and it like re-sutures itself back together.
I don't like thinking about that. It's weird.
Well, like the only problem I had is like you're gonna get up and run around after that. Okay, man. Not just gonna sit and wait it out. Sure.
Yeah, some game physics don't make any sense. I'll give you an example. The original Spider-Man games. Where the hell are the webs sticking to?
Uh-huh.
They're just in the sky. I like that with the new Spider-Man game. They at least stick them to a building, and they come off at least. Literally, I could be just swinging around the city, and I played it back. I'm like, wait, they're not showing the webs on the buildings. They're literally just showing it's right in the sky. I could be literally in the ocean, and somehow a web will start working somehow.
I remember being a kid and just like complaining about that to my dad. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. He's like, well, you know the web attaches to the buildings. I'm like, I'm higher than the buildings. I'm above the rooftops.
Yeah, no, I just don't get it.
I gotta get back to playing that Spider-Man PS4 game. I miss it. I miss it dearly.
It's a great game.
Oh, have you played Death Stranding?
I have not. I've heard about it though.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it.
It's so. Have you played any of like Kojima's previous games, like any of the Metal Gear games?
I don't believe so. No, my friends play them a lot before I had a console when I was like 12. But like,
Mm.
I didn't really. I haven't seen that. No, I haven't played any of them at all. I wanted to though.
It's interesting in how story is delivered in those games, and especially in Death Stranding. There's been this long running joke of like, oh, most of the Metal Gear games are nothing but cutscenes, even though it, like one of them maybe holds that joke.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of the story is stuff you kind of have to pay attention to, not do research on. You don't have to write a thesis on it, but
Yeah.
like the they will the characters will explain something to you, and kind of the game will kind of almost expect you to remember it.
Hmm.
And I had that worry with Death Stranding, because there are a lot of characters that have very interesting names, and I was worried that it's like, oh, they're just named weird for the sake of being weird. But then they go on to explain it, and now I'm that guy of like, but no, you have to play it. It'll explain it, I promise.
This is fuckboy. Figure him out.
Yeah, it's like, why is there a guy named Hartman? It's like, oh, that's a dumb name. Whenever I see somebody watch the trailer, it's like, it's
There's some weird gang. Like that's my boy Skittles over there. Don't fuck with him.
yeah, but then you play the game and it's like, man, Skittles has a really tragic backstory, and that's why he's called Skittles. And it's like, oh,
He tasted the rainbow, and now he is the rainbow.
yeah, he's tied spiritually with the rainbow. But like a lot of it's just like, pay attention, and like that's what I pray everybody does whenever I tell them to play it. Like, if you do play it, just listen, listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, like there's people like, what's gonna happen next? I don't know. I've never played. Pay attention.
Yeah, what's that guy about? Just play it.
Yeah, some people don't. People lack. Uh, People lack the ability to make sense with games. Obviously, if you're asking the person who's never played the game and you're asking what happens next, how am I supposed to know?
Well, even then, like specifically for Death Stranding, what drew me in is when those E3 trailers came out with Norman Reedus on the beach.
Oh, I love Norman Reedus.
And I I was watching that with like a party of other people in a big Discord chat, and and after everything concluded, nobody was saying anything, and I just leaned into my mic and I went, I have no clue what that game's about, and I love it. Like, I can't.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
was a video
guess.
game noob at one point.
What's that?
I was a video game noob at one point. Those were the glory days. I remember when I was, I think it was before I even got to Assassin's Creed. I'm like, who's that dude wearing the hood? Is that the Prince of Persia? My friends just looked at me and were like, get out.
Why are they all wearing hoods?
Even my friend's mom, she's like, that's not the Prince of Persia. That's Assassin's Creed. I'm like, sorry.
Even though wasn't originally Assassin's Creed supposed to be a Prince of Persia spin-off?
It was. Originally, Ubisoft released footage of this Prince of Persia game that got scrapped. They showed gameplay concept footage, if I said that correctly. Yeah. Concept gameplay footage, whatever. But they made, which was the Prince of Persia. But the funny thing is that they scrapped that game, and instead of making that game, they went with Assassin's Creed 1. And the funny thing about Assassin's Creed 1 is they already had the whole game for Prince of Persia planned out. What they literally just did was just change some of the characters. They kept everything, all the backgrounds, all the scenery, and they just switched the They just switched the characters and some of the mechanics, and they go, "This is Assassin's Creed 1. Enjoy."
I like. Do you remember that weird magic of like the first Assassin's Creed?
Yeah.
all of that
Hmm.
mystery and intrigue that hadn't been explained yet.
Yeah. Some of it doesn't make sense, but it's whatever.
Well, I mean, just like the like that shock stinger at the end of seeing the writing on the walls.
Hmm.
Like that was talked about for years until Assassin's Creed 2 came out.
Yeah. I'd have to say one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games is probably it's probably going to be Valhalla when it comes out, but for the meantime, I liked Assassin's Creed 3 at the time, and then Assassin's Creed Syndicate was probably my favorite in terms of a modern type because that was I believe that was the most modern version of Assassin's Creed because of all the mechanics and you got the grapple hook that was built into the gauntlet and all that, and Origins was amazing because of its revolutionary like huge map, like you could literally explore Egypt, and Odyssey we don't talk about Odyssey, that was disappointing.
Mm.
But how are you gonna make an Assassin's Creed game if there's no hidden blade? you know
Well, what was it? Which one are you talking about?
Odyssey.
Well, if I remember, isn't it? Doesn't it? Isn't Odyssey like the earliest in the timeline? Like the hidden blade hasn't even been invented yet.
No. Odyssey takes place a little after Origins because Origins was like the beginning of the Creed.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I could be wrong, but that's what I think it was. Um, yeah, that's what I think it was.
The only part that throws me off is the was it the spear when you're like doing teleports during combat?
Yeah, it's like wait a minute.
Wasn't this a realistic type deal when it started? What happened? Wait, what's going on
Like
here?
the game was beautiful, but it was literally just a cookie cutter of Origins, and they just took some things out.
One of my absolute favorites was oh god, now that I think about it, was either Brotherhood or I honestly really liked Revelations.
Revelations was good.
Like I like playing Brotherhood and Revelations back to back because there's the end of Brotherhood with everything that happens with Lucy and Desmond and all that,
Hmm.
and then there's Revelations right after where it's Desmond dealing with what happened.
Yeah,
And I personally I miss Desmond.
Desmond was a good character.
Well, like that, I think he gave the Assassin's Creed series a focal point to work from
Hmm.
because it went from, hey, your DNA has the ancestors of Altair and Ezio and Connor and all this.
Get on our machine.
Yeah, sit in the Animus, figure it out, and then you get to the newer ones, and it's hacker person going, "Hey, I sent you some files to your Animus home console."
Yeah, you might get a seizure or you might die, but it's totally worth. It's like VR and crack.
I can't. We have no idea what's going to happen once we send these DNA files that are not yours to you.
It's like you're in the body of like some prostitute. No, this is the wrong file. Send it back.
Oh no! Oh no!
Thinking about it in Origins, technically, when you really think about it, the person, Bayek Kathiwa,
Hmm.
he's actually controlled by a female. So technically, Bayek mentally is being played by a female.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about that because I think of it, it's almost like a dream. Like the person controlling the, they're technically reliving their past. So are they able to interact and control with their past? Because the past already happened. So how would they be able to interact with it?
Well, if I remember, the general concept of the Animus is that it's replaying specific events in a specific order, but the parts that it
Mhm.
can't tell you clearly is interpreting what happened. And
Yeah.
that's where the newer games kind of fall apart, specifically in the current developers' hands, because it seems like they lost the plot too. Like
Hmm.
with Odyssey, during one of the commercials, it's like, yeah, since the Animus is a simulation, it's like, but it's not. You're watching memories. That's what's like,
Yeah.
and then having the two-player characters, like, but that's not how that works. Like, I cannot, like, they tried to write off as an Animus glitch, but at the end of the day, there's one canon
Animus
ending.
bullshit. Oh, I love the concept of all of that. You know, like in the Assassin's Creed movie where it shows him jumping in. That reminds me, I did this virtual reality experience at this mall,
Mm,
big mall. I think it's called Tyson's Corner, and there's this place called the Void, and they do these VR experiences. And what's unique about them is that the games that they have literal stages that are mapped out to the game that you play.
mm,
So this means you can walk in them, you can touch whatever, you could see the people that you are with. And I played this Jumanji experience, and I was really interested. And so they gave you a card, and then you would put the card in your suit. They have these haptic vests and helmets, and they would take you in this room. They say stand in a corner, and you could see all four of your people. They're just blue avatars, no faces, anything.
mm.
And so you've seen the newer Jumanji movies, have you?
Yeah.
So they close the door, and then this green portal opens up on the ceiling, and it looks so cool. And then you start getting sucked into the game, and you can feel it. So once you get sucked into the portal, you can see yourself falling. It's really weird too. Like they have wind, you can see yourself falling down into Jumanji. And I, but I came in there as the female for some reason,
Mm.
but that was whatever. And my aunt was the Rock. It's funny because I'm 6'6" and she's like I think 5'10". So I was shorter and it was weird. Oh, yikes!
Yikes.
Yeah, I got eaten by a tiger. That was not fun.
I well, I was playing Half Life Alex. Like, I'm 6'2",
Hmm.
and like, if I remember in Half Life Alex, you're like 5'9",
Hmm.
and so I'm like, why are all the doorways so tall? Why are the windows so high
Yeah,
up?
yeah, that's an immersion breaker. If like even with any video games, like I have to have my height calibrated a certain way, or else like I'll feel weird.
Hmm. I had a issue with that. I was trying to play was it Job Simulator on PSVR,
Hmm.
and I set the like it went from one extreme to the other to where like my chest was on the ground that low,
Hmm.
and then to where I'm like 10 feet tall and I can't hit the button because I can't duck low enough to hit it.
Yeah, VR is powerful. You know, one of the most games that I've got lost in was in Skyrim VR. That was my first experience that uh I've ever gotten. I like got in. I started the game at like 6 p.m. and it's crazy how you lose the concept of time.
Hmm.
Oh, why did I just switch into my voice? Whoops! It gets switched into the concept of time, and I took off the headset. And it only felt like I was on there for maybe like an hour. It was like 3 in the morning. I'm like, what the hell?
I had that recently with a non VR game. I was playing Doom Eternal.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I'll play one more mission, and I look down. It's 3 a.m. Like,
3 hours
oh,
later.
okay, great.
Hmm.
I was the was it with Job Simulator? I used to work retail for a couple different
Mhm.
places, and I was doing the was I did the cashier one at when you're at the convenience
Oh,
store,
human.
and I was having horrible flashbacks to retail where I was actively apologizing to the robot.
Oh, that has to be interesting. Kind of traumatizing. It's like, no, this game was supposed to be fun, not bring back Vietnam flashbacks.
Oh well, like I was having fun, but then like the minute he's like, I want a hot dog. I'm like, cool, I can do that, and I'm trying to get it all set up, and I dropped it, and I genuinely looked at him and went, fuck, dude, I'm sorry. I'm like, wait a minute,
Oh,
I'm not getting paid, and this has no merit. I'm like, but for a very real second, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I'll get you another one.
Yeah, it's like make him another hot dog now, or I will kill you.
Well, it was something he said. It was just like, hurry it up. I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm sorry.
It's like, please don't hurt me.
Don't fire me, please. Oh man, imagine if customers could fire employees.
That'd be interesting.
Nobody would
You know,
work
I don't like
anywhere.
your fucking attitude. Get out of here.
Yeah, you didn't bag my groceries fast enough. Get out.
I'm gonna do the groceries now.
I used to have a manager that did that. He would like he would tell you to go home when your shift is up, but he would make it sound like you were being fired.
Oh wow.
So like I used to, when I worked for the hardware retailer, I was just helping fix stuff on shelves, and he goes like, "All right, get out of here." I'm like, wait, what?" He's like, "Get lost, go." I'm like, what do you mean? Like, am I fired?" He's like, "No, it's 6 o'clock. You gotta go home." I'm like, "Oh yeah, right." Sitting there starting to sweat for a second, like, oh man,
He's like, why are your pants wet?
why are you sweating? Don't worry,
Go.
I don't know.
Like, I'm sorry.
just, just, just jump the gun and just start crying. I don't know.
He's just looking at you like, what the hell?
6'2",
Get your shit together. He starts pimp slapping you.
6'2" bearded man just starts crying. I think. Oh my goodness. I with that horrifying image in mind, I think we will bring this episode to an end. Thank you very much, Lucid Lupus, for coming on. I had a blast talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a great time.
Yeah. And all of you wonderful party people at home, thank you for sticking around to the end if you did. Links to Lucid Lupus's channel will be in the description below. Please check him out. Please, pretty please. And I hope you, Lucid, and you, wonderful party people at home, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too.